Hello everyone, I'm Brian Croydragon and welcome to today's Truth or Scare commentaries. Today it is crop circles, and as usual I'm curious what commentary was, which documentary was reformatted. Without further ado, let's get started.
In farmers' fields all over the world, everyone wants to know, what on earth is happening? Huge formations are appearing out of nowhere. Some say they're man-made, others the work of angels. And there are those who believe they carry messages from another world. Could they be signs from above, or just an elaborate hoax? To find an Truth or Scare is going
Alex?
deep inside crop circles.
I'm not sure if I remember this episode. Man-made, angels, aliens. Okay, I heard the man-made one, I've heard the alien one, never heard the angels one before.
They appear in the middle of nowhere, practically out of nowhere. Gigantic, complex designs in farmers' fields, with some say unexplained energies and bizarre balls of light inside the formations themselves. They're called simply crop circles, but as you're about to find out, there is nothing simple about them. 300 years ago, the first documented crop circles were believed to be made by fairies and elves.
Obviously,
In 1678, this ancient pamphlet claimed the mowing devil of Hertfordshire was responsible. Was it just an early prankster, or something much harder to explain? Through 1970, almost 200 more designs would appear in the fields of central England. But starting in the 1980s, crop circles started forming faster than people could count. Now, investigators started appearing just as fast, determined to solve the mystery. Peter Sorensen is one of the investigators who started traveling to England each summer in the early 1990s to study the bizarre phenomenon.
Was still in what we call the golden age of crop circles. And there was magic in the air. Definitely powerful. And we would go to these crop circles, and it was also always a race to see who could get to the crop circle first.
Peter says that each summer during that time, dozens of formations would appear every night. Spellbinding designs, some as big as 3 soccer fields. Crop circle investigator John Rixey Moore was there.
Around 1991, these formations became very elaborate. They became much more complex geometrically. They began to look like things in my geometry textbook from high school.
There were designs that looked like DNA code, others like constellations of stars. Some investigators even saw signs of an unknown alien language. They began to wonder if the circles were actually an urgent coded message. And if we didn't crack the code, and soon, the human race might be in deep trouble. But at the same time, others said the designs were directly connected to ancient cultures right here on Earth. These people claim that many of the circles seem to use the same type of geometry used to create the great Egyptian and Aztec pyramids. And that others clearly look like well-known religious symbols, like the Star of David or the Celtic cross. In fact, a lot of the designs seem to be linked to the ancient Celts, a mysterious culture that lived here in England over 1,000 years ago.
England, France, Ireland.
The Celts built many sacred sites here that some investigators believe are directly related to the crop circles.
Great Britain,
Sites like the legendary
instead of
Henge.
England.
Over 90% of the crop circles in England are within 40 miles of the mysterious structure. The designs even appear to be in direct alignment with the sacred sites.
England has many ancient sites that peoples from thousands of years ago used as sacred places of worship and ceremony. And you can draw lines connecting each of these places on a map, and you will find that these crop circles appear along these lines.
Researchers call them ley lines. Some believe that they are just prehistoric trading routes, but others are convinced they're actually highways of the Earth's magnetic energy, moving right under our feet, crisscrossing the English countryside. The theories come and go, but the mysteries behind the crop circles remain.
God's sake.
Are crop circles the
Okay,
work of
hold on
humans here on
here.
Earth? And go, but the mysteries behind the crop circles remain.
Okay.
Are crop circles the work of humans here on Earth? A message from another time or place? Shocking news splits the crop circle community in two. Next on Truth or Scare. Since the early 1980s, crop circle investigators have been dying to discover just who or what is creating these bizarre designs all over the English countryside. Some say the answer came in 1991, when a shocking revelation rocked the crop circle world.
And what will that revelation be?
Since the 1980s, central England's countryside has been crop circle central. The
God's
designs
sake.
appeared almost non-stop.
Okay, look.
Has been crop circle central.
Okay, it's
The designs
definitely
appeared
just
almost non-stop.
uploader error.
And the questions for investigators keep piling up. Who was doing this? And why? Then, in 1991, everything changed. That's when two men named Doug and Dave came forward and claimed that since the 1970s, they had made hundreds of crop circles. How? With just a wooden board and some rope. At first, investigator Peter Sorensen didn't buy Doug and Dave's claim. How could two guys with a board and a rope create designs as perfectly shaped as the ones he'd studied? So Peter decided to conduct an experiment. He paid some farmers to let him use their fields so he could make his own crop circles. One person stands in the center of the field holding one end of a long rope. Then someone on the other end stretches the rope out tight and walks in a circle around the person in the center, trampling the crops.
You get out what's called a stomping board, which is a piece of wood. You put it on the ground. It's got two ropes. Put your foot on it, and you push the crop down and step forward, push the crop down and step forward. And that's the main method of flattening the crop.
Pretty soon they'd have it. A genuine state-of-the-art crop circle. That summer, Peter secretly made crop circles all over central England, positive his fellow experts would not be fooled. But each and every time, they were. From that point on, Peter had to admit it. The whole phenomena was probably very easy to explain.
In the beginning, I thought they were angels, and now I know that they're made by human beings.
But many investigators disagreed. Sure, they said, some of the circles were fakes. But what about the designs with hundreds of circles or squares perfectly aligned?
Yeah.
Researcher Sean Randall is convinced that the mystery behind most crop circles is still unsolved.
There are a lot of man-made circles, a lot of hoaxed crop circles, but that doesn't take away from the vast numbers that are very authentic. The true, beautiful ones that appear in a matter of minutes and in the pouring rain.
And how, many say, do you explain this? In 1996, a pilot flying above the legendary monument of Stonehenge reported nothing unusual. But only 15 minutes later, this formation was clearly visible near the sacred site. With over 150 layered circles, this incredible design was 900 feet long. And even though the area is heavily guarded by Stonehenge security, somehow no one witnessed a thing. And it's not like people haven't tried. Researchers using highly sensitive surveillance equipment have staked out fields all night, waiting to catch some hoaxers in the act. But even then, massive crop circles have appeared undetected, practically under their noses. To some, it all adds up to something non-human behind many of the circles. Some researchers estimate that 80% of crop circles can be accounted for by humans, but the rest are still a mystery. And John Rixey Moore thinks the differences are obvious.
In a fake man-made one, the grain is pushed straight over, usually with boards. But in a real crop circle, the grain is very, very flat and it's interwoven. It lies on the ground interwoven like a blanket.
Could human beings possibly do that? The answer is yet another mystery, but it's definitely not the last one. Mysterious balls of light, unexplained magnetic forces, the latest amazing claims from inside the crop circles. Next on Truth or Scare. The recent crop circle frenzy has proven one thing. Crop circles can and will be faked. Still, there are a few things that even the hoaxers can't explain. Like what some say happens when they step into the circles themselves.
And what exactly happens?
Researcher Ed Sherwood knows firsthand what it's like to actually enter a new formation.
There have been some truly magnificent formations, of which when you walk into them, you feel like you're walking into a cathedral or a church, a sacred space.
Many researchers are convinced that most of the English crop circles are connected with ancient sacred sites, and some even believe that the sites and circles line up along mysterious highways of the Earth's energy. Barbara Lamb has written a book on the subject.
There seemed to be an energy just rising up from the ground where the stalks had been so beautifully laid over. I could feel it in my body.
And not alone. In the summer of 2002, John Rixey Moore was making a video documentary on the crop circle craze. John couldn't say for sure if the circles are a hoax, but says there is something happening in those fields that would be impossible to fake.
There is a powerful electromagnetic energy field in a crop circle. It slowly gets weaker over the weeks that the formation is there, but when it's fresh, this is a very strong energy force.
But in the end, there's no way to prove for sure what someone says they felt. They could be making everything up, or it could all just be happening in their minds. But machines don't have minds, and they can't lie. So then what explains this? One day, while John was videotaping inside a circle, his camera battery suddenly went dead. And when John left the circle to get a new one from his car, the dead battery suddenly was back, at full strength. The same thing happens with cell phones.
Very curious.
No signal inside the circle. Step out and make all the calls you want. And the list goes on. Compasses that can't locate north. Watches that stop telling time. Even airplanes have lost power as they've flown over a circle. Some major crop circle events have plunged entire towns into darkness. Are the hoaxers even trickier than we thought? Many say they would have to be, because several years after people first admitted to making crop circles, mysterious things just kept happening. Investigators say images of these mysterious balls of light are the best evidence that the crop circle phenomenon is real and not the work of hoaxers. They call the lights luminosities or plasmas. Reportedly, they make no noise and many claim they seem to have an intelligence all their own. Some say they're part of the circle itself, but others believe they've come from above. Far, far above. Hovering spaceships, exploded wheat, maybe even a little mind control. The shocking claims that aliens are the true source of the circles. Next on Truth or Scare. Visit the central English countryside this summer, and you might get to experience a crop circle for yourself. But will your experience be unbelievable? A lot of the stories about these mysterious formations seem pretty far out there, and so are the explanations. There are some investigators who believe these bizarre symbols seem like some sort of alphabet, an alien alphabet. Could someone from another planet or even another galaxy actually be trying to communicate with us? Radio telescopes like this one in Chilbolton, England, search the sky for even the tiniest bit of alien communication. But has their answer been right outside their front door the entire time? Several crop circles have actually appeared right next to the radio telescope dish in Chilbolton. Most are simply beautiful designs, but some say that others look a lot like the kinds of coded information we sent out into space on the Voyager spacecraft. On top of that, they say some formations seem to represent galaxies, or maybe even identify Earth's exact location in the solar system. If they're right, are our galactic neighbors trying to tell us that they're watching? Ed and Chris Sherwood have been investigating crop circles since the 1980s, and they claim to have seen a lot of evidence that it's not just human beings flattening the crops.
We had a very dramatic UFO encounter while inside a crop circle formation at the dead of night.
Oh, really?
What Ed witnessed was a mysterious floating object that didn't make noise. At first, he thought it was probably just a plasma, like people had reported from other crop circles. But there was something about this one.
This, my friends, I don't think is a plasma.
So what did he think it was?
This appears to be craft of some kind. And it's putting on quite a display.
Ed watched the object for over 9 minutes as it moved back and forth across a radio tower. Then, suddenly, it blinked out and disappeared. Was Ed just seeing things? There's no way to know for sure. But many other researchers claim to have seen UFOs near crop circles too. And Ed believes that the fact that we're seeing all these new, more complex formations is proof that we're finally going to make contact with the aliens who made them. But some say the best evidence of alien circle makers is in the circles themselves. Investigator John Rixey Moore says that sometimes plants inside the formations are changed. According to John, the grain stalks of some crop circles have been exploded. The result, he says, of a strange microwaving energy.
The heart of the grain has been burned and explodes out, and yet it doesn't kill the grain. The grain continues to grow this way and then starts back up again. It has been microwaved inside, and the stem has been exploded outward.
John also claims these crops don't die. In fact, they seem to grow faster a few days later. John says there's no way a human could do this to a plant. What he'd like to know now is just who can. Unfortunately, we may never know. But even though humans probably can't microwave entire fields of wheat, many researchers believe that the man-made crop circles are connected to alien messages. Some claim that when aliens see one of our circles, they reply, by making one of their own. But others, like Barbara Lamb, say that the people who admit to making the formations are sometimes secretly influenced by an extraterrestrial force. Even Peter Sorensen, who is convinced that all crop circles are man-made, admits that the human circle makers might just be getting a little coaching from our friends in outer space.
I think it's entirely possible that extraterrestrials are involved in the crop circle phenomena in this sense. They may be the channel that is inspiring the artists to go out and make the designs.
Another interesting theory. And when it comes to explaining the mysterious phenomenon of crop circles, theories are pretty much all we have to go on. For now, at least. Are crop circles just the product of some creative, sneaky people? Or are they a message from a distant galaxy and a possible clue to our future? Some say the mystery's already been solved, but others believe these spectacular formations still have many secrets to reveal. Though no matter what you believe, one thing is for sure. The beautiful, magical crop circles will always send us a message of inspiration.
I don't know. Other things to consider. And this and quite a bit of them are pretty out there. I'm Brian Croy Dragon signing out. Stay straight.